The first sign of trouble came from the Deep Space Monitoring Station in Antarctica. Dr. Thomas Reed stared at his computer screen, his coffee growing cold beside him. The energy readings were unlike anything he had seen before. They were massive, organized, and moving with purpose. "Get me the United Nations Space Command," he said to his assistant. His voice was steady, but his hand shook as he gathered the data. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth turned their instruments toward the outer edges of the solar system. The readings weren't a mistake. Something big was coming, and it wasn't natural. Admiral James Wilson stood in the UN Emergency Council chamber, facing the worried faces of world leaders. The huge screen behind him showed real-time images from space telescopes. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we are not alone, and they're coming straight for us." The objects emerged from what looked like tiers in space itself. First one, then 10, then hundreds. Their ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Silver and gold structures that seemed to ignore the basic rules of physics. They moved with impossible grace, each one larger than the largest cities on Earth. Earth's combined military forces went on high alert, but they knew their weapons would be like throwing stones at a battleship. All they could do was watch and wait. The first message came 3 days later. It filled every screen, radio, and communication device on the planet. A face appeared, almost human but not quite. The being had perfect features, like a statue come to life, with skin that seemed to shimmer with a metallic sheen. "People of Earth," the being said in perfect English, "I am Commander Marcus of the Galactic Empire. Your world exists within our protected primitive zones, designated for future resource extraction. We have come to claim what is ours." The world held its breath. In New York, London, Beijing, and every major city, people stopped to watch. Some prayed, others prepared for the worst. In the Pentagon's war room, Admiral Wilson and his team analyzed every word, every pixel of the transmission. "Your species has advanced faster than expected," Commander Marcus continued. "This presents us with an opportunity. You have 2 choices: join our empire as a vassal state or face immediate removal from this planet. You have 48 Earth hours to decide." The transmission ended, leaving behind a silence that seemed to echo around the world. In the hours that followed, something unexpected happened. Instead of panic, humanity showed its true strength. Old enemies put aside their differences. Border disputes were forgotten. The world's leaders gathered in an emergency session that lasted through the night. Dr. Reed and his team worked nonstop, studying the Imperial ships. They noticed something odd. Every movement, every action of the Empire's fleet followed perfect mathematical patterns. Too perfect. They're totally dependent on their computers, he told Admiral Wilson. Their entire civilization might be built on automated systems. Admiral Wilson saw an opportunity in this weakness. While the Empire waited for Earth's surrender, he ordered every military and scientific institution to work on a plan. They wouldn't go down without a fight. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They thought Earth was primitive because it didn't use their advanced technology. They didn't understand that sometimes simpler was better. They didn't understand human creativity, determination, or the power of desperate innovation. As the deadline approached, Earth's response was being prepared. In secret bunkers around the world, engineers worked on weapons that didn't need complex computers. Soldiers trained with both high-tech and traditional weapons. Hackers studied the patterns in the Imperial transmissions, looking for ways to turn the aliens' complexity against them. Commander Marcus waited in his flagship, expecting surrender documents. Instead, he would soon learn why you should never corner a species that had survived ice ages, meteors, plagues, and its own destructive power. Earth was about to teach the Galactic Empire a lesson about underestimating primitive worlds. The clock was ticking, and humanity was ready to show the universe why Earth would never be just another resource to harvest. The sky above New York looked strange with the Imperial ships hanging there like metal clouds. Commander Marcus had requested a face-to-face meeting with Earth's leaders, and they had chosen the UN headquarters as the meeting place. Admiral Wilson watched from the security room as the Imperial shuttle descended. It moved without a sound, landing softly in the plaza. Commander Marcus stepped out, followed by 4 guards in shining armor. Their movements were too perfect, too smooth, like robots trying to act human. Their armor is connected to their quantum network, Dr. Reed whispered, looking at his readings. Everything they do is calculated by computers, even the way they walk. Inside the General Assembly Hall, leaders from every nation waited. Some looked afraid, others angry, but all stayed quiet as Commander Marcus walked to the podium. Up close, his artificial perfection was even more unsettling. "Your time to decide has ended," Marcus said, his voice filling the room. "The Empire requires your answer." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Choose wisely. Other worlds who resisted no longer exist." The Secretary General stood up. They had planned this carefully. "We wish to understand the terms of becoming a vassal state," she said. "What exactly would this mean for Earth?" Marcus pressed a button on his wrist, and a hologram appeared above the podium. It showed beautiful cities with impossible architecture, people living in apparent luxury. "The Empire will guide your development. We will uplift your technology, but in return, you will provide resources and follow Imperial law." "And what resources do you want?" Admiral Wilson asked from his seat. "Everything," Marcus replied simply. "Your metals, your water, your biological materials. Earth is rich in resources the Empire needs. But do not worry. We will leave enough for a small human population to continue serving the Empire." A murmur of anger went through the room, quickly silenced when Marcus's guards raised their weapons. But Dr. Reed, watching from his lab through the security feeds, smiled. The weapons, like everything else, connected to their quantum network. While Marcus talked about the Empire's grand plans, teams around the world were already working. In an underground base in Colorado, Captain Ann Miller led a group of hackers studying Imperial transmissions. In a hidden facility beneath the Australian desert, engineers tested new weapons that used no complex electronics. "You have 1 more day to prepare your surrender documents," Marcus announced. "After that, we begin resource extraction, with or without your cooperation." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Oh, and do not think of resisting. Your most powerful weapons are like children's toys to us." After the Imperial delegation left, Earth's leaders gathered in a secure bunker deep underground. Admiral Wilson stood at the front of the room, his face lit by screens showing defense plans. "They think they're gods," he said, "but they have a weakness. Everything they do depends on their quantum network. Their ships, their weapons, even their fancy armor. It all needs perfect calculations to work." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "We found a pattern in their communications. Their quantum computers are advanced, but they're also delicate. They can't handle uncertainty or chaos, and that's something humans are very good at creating." The plan was risky. Earth would pretend to surrender, to make the Empire feel safe and superior. Meanwhile, they would prepare for something the Empire would never expect: a war fought with both high-tech and simple weapons, guided by human instinct instead of computers. Captain Miller's voice came through a secure line. "The virus is ready, sir. When their ships connect to accept our surrender documents, we can hit their entire network at once." The world leaders voted unanimously. Earth would not surrender. They would not become slaves. The Empire thought humans were primitive because they didn't rely completely on advanced technology. Soon, they would learn that this was humanity's greatest strength. As night fell over Earth, the Imperial ships glowed in the darkness, waiting for a surrender that would never come. In bases and bunkers around the world, humanity prepared for what would become the greatest fight in human history. The Empire had no idea what they had started by threatening Earth. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Ann Miller walked through rows of old computers and new machines. Her team had been working non-stop for 3 days, mixing Earth's best technology with systems so old they seemed like museum pieces. "It looks messy," she told Admiral Wilson during his inspection. "But that's the point. The Empire's quantum computers can't process real chaos. They try to find patterns in everything." The Admiral nodded, watching technicians connect modern servers to analog systems. "How's the virus coming along?" "Ready for testing," Miller said, leading him to a sealed room. Inside, they had a captured Imperial communicator. "Watch this." She typed a command, and the virus attacked the device. The perfect holographic display flickered, tried to correct itself, then shut down completely. The Empire's advanced technology, faced with truly random data, simply gave up. Meanwhile, in orbit, the Empire began their survey of Earth. They sent small drones down to scan for resources, completely unaware that humans were tracking their every move. Dr. Reed's team had figured out how to watch the Imperial ships without being detected. "They're so dependent on their technology that they don't even post guards," Dr. Reed told his team. "Their ships run everything automatically. They don't think we can touch them." Around the world, humanity's greatest strength was showing: the ability to adapt. Military bases turned off their advanced targeting computers, training soldiers to use old-fashioned scopes and manual controls. Engineers built simple but effective weapons that needed no computers to work. In an underground factory in Brazil, workers assembled electromagnetic pulse generators using technology from the 1960s. In Russia, submarines practiced running silent, using techniques that hadn't changed in 50 years. Chinese factories worked day and night, producing simple but effective rockets that could be fired without computer guidance. Commander Marcus watched Earth from his flagship, feeling pleased. His scanners showed only normal activity. No military buildup, no secret weapons. Humans were going about their daily lives, apparently accepting their fate. He didn't notice that much of Earth's activity had gone dark, invisible to his perfect sensors. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "the humans request a meeting to discuss surrender terms. They're sending the documents tomorrow." Marcus smiled his perfect smile. Another primitive world accepting its place in the Empire. He didn't know that the surrender documents contained Captain Miller's virus, waiting to attack. But Earth's greatest weapon wasn't the virus or the hidden weapons. It was something the Empire had never faced: human unpredictability. While Imperial ships followed precise patterns, human fighters practiced random movements. While Imperial computers tried to calculate every possibility, human commanders prepared to make split-second decisions based on instinct and experience. In a test facility under the Sahara Desert, fighter pilots flew planes with most electronics turned off. "It feels weird," one pilot told his commander. "But it's also freeing. No computer telling me what to do, just my skills and my gut feelings." Admiral Wilson received reports from around the world. Everything was ready. The old missile silos had been modified. The submarines were in position. Fighter jets waited in hidden bases. Most importantly, millions of simple radio transmitters were ready to flood the Empire's network with random noise. "Tomorrow," he told the world leaders in their bunker, "we show them what humans can do. They think we're surrendering, but we're actually going to war." Dr. Reed added final touches to his analysis. "The Empire has forgotten something important," he said. "They forgot that their ancestors once fought without computers, just like our ancestors did. They depend completely on technology. We don't." As the sun set on Earth's last day of peace, humanity was ready. Their weapons weren't as advanced as the Empire's, but they would work even if every computer on Earth died. Tomorrow, the Empire would learn that humans were not primitive. They were survivors, fighters, and they were about to prove it. The morning of the surrender arrived bright and clear. Imperial ships moved into position above every major city on Earth, their golden hulls shining in the sunlight. Commander Marcus watched from his flagship as his harvesting ships began to descend through the atmosphere. "Beginning resource extraction in 10 minutes, his computer announced. "All systems nominal." In the underground command center, Admiral Wilson looked at his watch. "Send the surrender documents," he ordered. Captain Miller nodded and pressed a button. The virus-laden files started uploading to the Imperial network. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The Imperial ships continued their descent. Then, one by one, their perfect formations began to break. Small errors appeared in their movements. Their flawless coordination started to fail. "What's happening?" Commander Marcus demanded as his screens flickered. His perfect bridge became chaos as system after system reported errors. The quantum network that controlled everything was drowning in random data it couldn't process. That's when Earth struck. From hidden bases around the world, fighter jets screamed into the sky. They flew wild, unpredictable patterns that the Imperial targeting systems couldn't track. Old-style missiles, guided by simple electronics, streaked upward toward the confused Imperial ships. "Impossible," Marcus shouted as the first explosions lit up the sky. His ship's advanced shields were failing, their computers unable to maintain the complex quantum fields without the network. In orbit, the Empire's mighty warships drifted out of formation. Their weapons still worked, but without computer targeting, they couldn't hit the small, fast-moving Earth fighters. Every shot they fired was based on calculations that humans weren't following. Admiral Wilson watched the battle screens. "Launch Operation Blackout," he commanded. Around the world, millions of simple radio transmitters turned on at once, flooding the Imperial quantum network with noise. Like a person trying to think in a room full of screaming voices, the Empire's computers began to shut down. Captain Miller's team monitored the virus's spread. "Their network is collapsing," she reported. "They can't tell their weapons what to target. They can't coordinate their ships. They're fighting blind." The Empire wasn't helpless. Their ships still had massive weapons. But these weapons were like sledgehammers trying to hit flies. Earth's fighters darted between the powerful but clumsy energy beams, getting close enough to fire their simple weapons at weak points in the Imperial shields. Commander Marcus watched in horror as his perfect invasion fell apart. "Impossible," he kept saying. "They're primitives. They're not supposed to be able to fight like this. But humans could fight like this. They'd trained for it." While Imperial crews struggled to operate their ships manually, Earth's forces fought the way humans had always fought, with courage, skill, and the ability to make split-second decisions without computers. A squadron of old Russian submarines surfaced in the Atlantic, firing missiles at Imperial ships from directions their sensors weren't covering. Chinese fighters attacked from the west, while American jets struck from the east. Brazilian pulse weapons disrupted Imperial systems even further. "Sir," Captain Miller called Admiral Wilson, "the virus has reached their command and control systems. Their entire fleet is going dark." The massive Imperial ships, each one bigger than a city, began to drift like dead whales in the sky. Some tried to retreat, but without their quantum network, they couldn't calculate the complex physics needed for space travel. They were trapped. Admiral Wilson allowed himself a small smile. "Send the message," he ordered. Every working screen and radio on Earth, including the Imperial ship's few remaining functional systems, received the same transmission. "To the Galactic Empire, Earth is not yours to take. You have 1 hour to surrender, or we will destroy every ship in your fleet. This is your only warning." In his flagship's darkened bridge, Commander Marcus stared at the message in disbelief. For the first time in Imperial history, a primitive world hadn't just resisted. It had won the first battle. And this was only the beginning. The victory celebration didn't last long. 3 days after Earth's first successful defense, Dr. Reed's deep space monitors detected new energy signatures. Much bigger ones. "They're sending their main fleet," he told Admiral Wilson, pointing at the readings. "And they're led by someone called High Admiral Rex." In his damaged flagship, Commander Marcus received the news with relief. High Admiral Rex was the Empire's most feared commander. His fleet carried planet-destroying weapons. Earth would surely surrender when they saw it. But Earth wasn't wasting time. Captain Miller's team worked to strengthen their virus, while military bases around the world went deeper underground. They knew the real test was coming. The Empire won't make the same mistakes twice. Admiral Wilson told his commanders, "They'll try to destroy us from orbit before we can use our tricks again." He was right. High Admiral Rex's fleet appeared suddenly, filling Earth's skies with massive warships. The new Imperial ships were different. Darker, more threatening, with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. "Primitive world," Rex's voice boomed across all frequencies. "You have committed a grave sin against the Empire. Surrender now, or we will destroy your entire civilization." To show he wasn't bluffing, Rex ordered his ships to fire warning shots. Massive energy beams struck the Pacific Ocean, instantly vaporizing millions of gallons of water. The resulting earthquakes shook entire continents. But humanity had planned for this. While Rex waited for Earth's response, thousands of small, automated decoy stations activated in orbit. Each one broadcast fake signals, making it impossible for Imperial sensors to find Earth's real military bases. "Sir," one of Rex's officers reported, "we can't get clear targeting data. There's too much electronic noise." Rex growled in frustration and ordered the first wave of planetary bombardment. Energy beams rained down on Earth, but most hit empty desert or ocean. The humans had hidden their important facilities too well. Underground, Captain Miller's team launched their improved virus. This time, the Empire was ready with defensive software, but they didn't expect what came next. The virus didn't attack their ships. It attacked their communication systems. Suddenly, Imperial ships couldn't talk to each other. Their perfect formation fell into confusion. Some ships accidentally fired on their own allies, unable to tell friend from foe. Impossible. Rex raged as reports of chaos came in. "They're just primitives." But these primitives had another surprise ready. Hundreds of small, unmanned Earth ships launched from hidden bases. They looked like easy targets, but when Imperial ships fired on them, they exploded with powerful electromagnetic pulses, creating zones where no complex technology could work. The humans called it Operation Blackout Zone. Soon, Earth's orbit was full of dead spaces where Imperial ships couldn't operate their advanced weapons. Earth's fighters, using simple manual controls, could fly through these zones safely while Imperial ships had to go around them. Admiral Wilson watched from the command center as the battle unfolded. Earth was taking heavy damage. Some cities were hit, millions had fled underground, but they were fighting back effectively. For every successful Imperial strike, Earth's forces disabled another enemy ship. Then Dr. Reed made an exciting discovery. "The Empire's ships can't fire their main weapons while their shields are up," he reported. "They have to drop their defenses for a few seconds to shoot." This was the weakness Earth needed. Admiral Wilson ordered all forces to watch for the moment when Imperial ships dropped their shields. Earth's fighters might only have a few seconds, but that was all they needed. Rex's mighty fleet found itself in an impossible situation. They couldn't find their targets. They couldn't coordinate their attacks. And every time they tried to use their planet-killing weapons, Earth's forces would strike at exactly the right moment. As the battle entered its second day, more Imperial ships were damaged or destroyed. Rex couldn't believe it. How could primitives fight so effectively? What he didn't understand was that humans had been fighting wars since before they had computers. They knew how to win even when the enemy had better weapons. The Empire was about to learn that having the strongest weapons didn't matter if you couldn't hit your target. Captain Miller stood in her stealth shuttle, checking her team's equipment one last time. Their mission was simple but incredibly dangerous: infiltrate High Admiral Rex's command ship and upload a new version of the virus directly into the Imperial fleet's main computer. "Remember," she told her small team, "we'll only have one chance at this." Admiral Wilson had chosen her team carefully. Each member knew how to fight without relying on technology. They carried simple weapons, ballistic guns, mechanical timers, and basic radios that would work even in dead zones. Meanwhile, Earth's forces prepared for their biggest attack yet. Every surviving fighter, ship, and submarine was ready. They would create a massive distraction while Miller's team snuck aboard the Imperial flagship. High Admiral Rex was getting desperate. Half his fleet was damaged or trapped in Earth's electronic dead zones. Even worse, he had just received disturbing news from across the galaxy. Other primitive worlds were starting to resist the Empire. "Sir," his communication officer reported, "3 more farming worlds have stopped sending resources. They say if Earth can fight back, so can they." Rex slammed his fist on his command chair. This couldn't be happening. The Empire had ruled space for 1,000 years. They couldn't be defeated by primitives with simple weapons. The attack began at dawn. Earth's forces struck from every direction at once. Fighters darted between Imperial ships, submarines launched missiles from the oceans, and ground batteries fired into space. The sky filled with explosions and energy beams. During the chaos, Miller's shuttle slipped through a hole in the Imperial defenses. They used no powered engines, just compressed air and careful timing. The Empire's sensors, looking for engine power and energy readings, didn't notice them. "Their arrogance is their weakness," Dr. Reed told Admiral Wilson as they watched the battle. "They never thought anyone would attack without using advanced technology. They don't even guard against simple things." Miller's team found this was true when they reached the flagship. The Empire relied so much on automated security that they had few actual guards. The humans used simple tools, lockpicks and mechanical cutters, to move through the ship. But High Admiral Rex wasn't completely blind. He sensed something was wrong when several security cameras went dark. "Find out what's happening," he ordered, "and send guards to protect the main computer." Miller's team reached the computer core just as Imperial guards arrived. A firefight broke out in the corridors. The guards' energy weapons were powerful but slow to fire. The humans' simple guns weren't as fancy, but they worked perfectly. "Upload the virus," Miller ordered as her team held off the guards. One of her technicians plugged a simple memory stick into the Imperial computer. They didn't need anything fancy. The Empire's computers were designed to process complex data, not defend against basic attacks. The effect was immediate. Throughout the Imperial fleet, ships began losing power. Their perfect formations fell apart. Their complex weapons stopped working. Rex watched in horror as his mighty fleet became a collection of drifting metal boxes. But Miller's team wasn't done. The new virus did more than just shut down Imperial ships. It broadcast everything in their computers to every corner of the galaxy. Suddenly, every world under Imperial control could see how the Empire really worked, how it really treated its subjects. "Sir," shouted an officer on Rex's bridge, "we're getting reports of uprisings on 12 worlds. 20 worlds. It's spreading everywhere." Admiral Wilson received the news with satisfaction. Earth hadn't just defended itself. It had shown the galaxy that the mighty Empire could be beaten. The age of Imperial rule was ending. As Miller's team fought their way back to their shuttle, they could hear the sound of revolution spreading across space. Earth's victory would become a symbol of hope for every world that wanted to be free. The final battle for Earth began as the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean. High Admiral Rex, his flagship crippled by Miller's virus, made one last desperate attempt to defeat the planet that had ruined the Empire's reputation. "If we can't have Earth," he screamed over all channels, "no one will." He ordered his remaining ships to use their planet-killer weapons, even if it meant destroying themselves in the process. Admiral Wilson stood calmly in the command center. "Send the signal," he ordered. Across Earth, hidden electromagnetic pulse generators powered up. They had been saving this weapon for the final battle. Captain Miller, safely back from her mission, watched the energy readings. "EMP is ready in all sectors, sir. This will fry every piece of advanced technology in orbit." Dr. Reed's voice came over the radio. "Admiral, the Imperial ships are powering up their main weapons. They're dropping their shields to do it." This was the moment they had planned for. Admiral Wilson gave the command. Operation Final Strike. Now, the world's electromagnetic pulse generators fired at once. A wave of energy swept outward from Earth. Imperial ships, their shields down as they prepared to fire, took the full force of the blast. Their quantum computers didn't just crash, they burned out completely. The mighty Imperial fleet, pride of the Galactic Empire, turned into lifeless hulks of metal. The few ships that survived the pulse found themselves surrounded by Earth's fighters, which had been safely powered down during the EMP strike. High Admiral Rex stared in disbelief as his flagship systems died one by one. "Impossible," he whispered, just as Commander Marcus had done days earlier. "We are the Empire. We cannot lose to primitives." But they had lost. Earth's fighters moved among the dead Imperial ships, demanding surrenders. Most Imperial crews gave up without a fight. Without their advanced technology, they didn't know how to fight back. The news spread across the galaxy at light speed. The virus that Miller's team had planted didn't just shut down the Imperial fleet. It showed every world in the Empire how a small, primitive planet had defeated the mightiest force in space. The effect was immediate. A dozen worlds declared independence. Then 100. The Empire's perfectly ordered society fell apart as planets realized they didn't need Imperial technology to be free. 1 week after the final battle, Admiral Wilson stood before the United Nations. The room was packed with leaders from Earth and representatives from other freed worlds. "Today," he said, "we create something new. Not an empire built on force and technology, but an alliance of free worlds. Earth will share what we've learned, not just about fighting, but about staying free." Captain Miller's team had discovered something interesting in the Imperial computers. The Empire had been lying about how advanced they really were. They hadn't invented most of their technology. They had stolen it from older civilizations they destroyed. The Empire kept worlds dependent on their technology. Dr. Reed explained to the assembly. "But we've proven that simpler technology, used wisely, can defeat their most advanced weapons." Earth became a symbol of hope across the galaxy. Human teachers helped other worlds learn to defend themselves without relying on Imperial technology. Human engineers showed them how to build simple but effective weapons and tools. The Empire didn't disappear completely. Some worlds still supported it. But it would never again threaten Earth or any other free world. Humanity had shown the galaxy a new way forward, one that balanced progress with independence. In orbit, workers began clearing away the wreckage of Imperial ships. Some would be studied to learn their secrets. Others would become monuments, reminding future generations that Earth stood up to an empire and won. Admiral Wilson looked at the stars through his office window. Somewhere out there, other worlds were fighting for their freedom, using lessons they learned from Earth. The galaxy was changing, and humanity had led the way. The Empire had thought Earth was primitive because it didn't depend completely on advanced technology. Instead, that independence had become humanity's greatest strength. And now it was a gift they could share with the stars.